Kidney Bean Podcast.
Hello and welcome. That's Tiffany.
That is Samantha over there with the green. Or if you're listening to us on Spotify, then you can't see us.
Yeah, but we wanted people to be able to tell the difference between us. Sometimes our voices sound the same, but you have a little bit more Southern accent.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to do a little housekeeping at the top this time. So thank you so much for all the support. We are now on Spotify. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and we are on Patreon at patreon.com/kidneybeanpodcast and youtube.com/the Kidney Bean Podcast. And thank you for all the subs. We did some sub diving.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we needed to get to 100 subscribers to be able to have, like, a firm address.
On YouTube.
YouTube.
I think people confused it for liking us on Facebook, which we do really appreciate. But
so if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe. It doesn't cost
subscribe
anything.
to the channel. It's free.
It's free.
And
smack that subscribe button.
We won't have a ton of notifications. It won't be blowing your phone up all the time. I mean, when we release an episode and things like that, you'll get a notification. But you could always turn those off anyway.
Well, and also, that's a good point. That brings me to my next point. I don't think people realize, but we are completely self-funded, which is why we set up the Patreon. So if you're interesting,
Yeah, only
if you're interesting. No, I did it again.
Interested.
If you're interested in helping us out, or you like what you see and you want to help support us, the Patreon link will be down below, and we'll get to moving on to the first topic.
Yeah, well, I wanted to do a shout out for our producer.
Of course, we are coming to you from the Southpaw Production Studios.
Yeah, Southpaw Media Productions in Clayton, North Carolina.
In Johnson County.
Yeah, we need to shout out David. He didn't want us to, but
we love David. He's amazing.
David has put this all together and made it possible. So thank you, David. And we did have a guest, but that fell through. So we're actually just going to, on this episode, kind of catch you guys up on what we want to be doing in the future and what this whole podcast is about.
And I think we're going to get into food a little bit.
Yes, because we love food. I love food. And, dialysis patients, that's a big thing, too.
Right.
Our diet sometimes has to change and, whether we do it or not, but it's supposed to change. So, it's a big deal. It's a big thing. And we do talk about food a lot in the dialysis community.
I want to say that your scar is looking amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it looks really good.
I know. I'm surprised by it. In pictures, I look for it immediately, and then I realize, it's not
bad.
terrible. I have worse.
Yeah.
I have way
and how's
worse.
the one on the arm?
Yes, I have way worse. Which I'm wearing my cover-up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please do tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's actually a dialysis sleeve. It covers the dialysis fistula that I use to hook up to the machine. So it's made for that. I don't remember the company, but Slim got it for me a couple years ago. So there's different, colors and stuff. I just
Do you feel now more comfortable wearing short sleeve stuff?
Oh yeah, I'll wear it with a tank top. And people do ask about it, of course, instantly.
It's a good conversation starter.
Right, when I walked into work the other day, they were this guy was like, what happened to your arm? And I'm like, I didn't realize that you could tell something happened to it. But someone was like, you got a tattoo? And so there's all kinds of things.
Yeah. I remember when you've had to wear bridesmaids dresses, you're always like, they always show the arm. Why do they have to be that way?
Yeah, when it was early, late 20s and stuff, when all my friends and everybody were getting married, I would be like, if you love me, you won't make me a bridesmaid. Which I hate that I said that because I didn't have to. I was just so self-conscious about it. But, I didn't have anything to cover it. I would be putting all this makeup on and trying to, keep it out of pictures and all that. And, because I've been a bridesmaid a lot, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
You have a lot of love.
Oh, thanks.
Everybody wants you to be in their wedding because you're so awesome.
Yeah, I've been in a few. So, I like weddings. I do. And I, throughout the years, my one good friend, she wanted me to speak at her wedding. And it was right after my kidney transplant and I was wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. Do you know, I wish I knew now or wish I knew then what I know now. I didn't go up there. I told her I didn't want to go up there with a mask on.
Which is crazy because mask. Fast forward almost 10 years later.
Yeah, about, I think more than 10 years actually. They've been married a while, Quincy and Mike.
Oh, Quincy. Yes, we know Quincy.
Yeah, they've been married a long time. But so I feel bad, I turned that down. That's an honor. That's such an honor.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, and she wanted me to read, the Love is Patient, Love is Kind script. So I would have love that, and I really, one of my regrets, I guess. But I was so self-conscious, and I was the only one there with a mask on. But how funny.
Yeah, now it's
and
everywhere.
people are looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?" But it was really so that I could keep their germs away from.
Whenever you would see someone wearing a mask, like I knew because I had a sister that had a transplant that was kind of like either you had an autoimmune disorder or that you just had a transplant and you had to wear it because you were very vulnerable to
right. But people assumed that I had the germs and they needed to stay away from me.
Right.
Like I was a leper.
You have the germs, not
right.
Yeah.
And it was
not me.
I have, because the anti-rejection medicines are immunosuppressant drugs. So it's suppressing your immune system so that your body doesn't reject the kidney. Yeah, the organ. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot that people don't realize with kidney transplant. I actually, let's see, we did the shout out for Southpaw Media Productions.
Give a shout out to Emma about the subs because like the subscriptions.
Oh yeah.
So we were trying to get to 100 subscriptions because then we could get that address for the YouTube channel. And I was like literally on the phone calling people like, have you subscribed? Subscribe now. Right. And then my stepdaughter Emma was like, we got to 99 and we stayed at 99 forever and she was watching. I was like, I'm going to go take a shower. And she comes running up the stairs. She says, you did it. You got to 100. And she's like our biggest
She called
cheerleader.
Me.
Because she was going to come into my room while I was trying to take a shower. I said, call Samantha.
Yeah. Well, I was very happy because she called me.
Yeah. Was it like, how was that conversation?
No,
like
it was
all
a
of
great
2 seconds?
conversation. Yeah, it was short, but I knew, we knew how
She's not a phone person or a texter.
I'm not so much of a phone talker.
But when you text her, it's always okay.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
Or nothing.
Or nothing. Or nothing. Sometimes it's nothing.
All the kids in my life, my nieces and nephews, well, I can't say
we officially sound like old aunts now.
I know.
Oh,
Jade always is, very
Jade,
responsive.
our oldest niece, is going to be 30.
She is.
Because I'm going to be 40 and she was born when I was 10.
Yep, I was 8. Oh my gosh, she's going to be 30. Yeah, I reminded Heather of that the other day on Heather's birthday. And I was like,
Heather's our oldest sister.
Heather's Jade's mom.
And I'm kind of sad about Emily, like, moving. So there's 5 sisters. Samantha's the youngest. I'm second youngest. And then it goes to Emily. Shout out to Emily Russell. And Xander's pictures. Oh, my God.
His senior pictures.
Our nephew's pictures. We're not going to talk about our family much more than this. But Emily is moving to Arizona, and I'm so sad, and we're going to miss you so much. She's our number 1 beanie.
Yeah.
So we've decided to call, like, people that like our podcast beanies.
Yeah. Emily's A1 since day 1.
Yeah, she's A1 since day 1. She's been promoting us, like, in Fayetteville. So if you're in the Fayetteville area.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, this is a little late, but Ramadan Kareem to our Muslim beanies.
Yes.
It's the holy month of Ramadan, and they are fasting from sunup to sundown for a whole month. So
now, are you doing that with Slim?
I really am not supposed to because I have to take calcium every 6 hours. There's a lot of medications going on, and when you're, sick and, certain things, can stop you from fasting. So, like if you're going through that time of the month, if you're old, if you're sick, if you're pregnant, like those things. So, doing dialysis is kind of, and I feel bad because I always try to do it with him like in solidarity, but I always have an excuse, always.
Well.
And I feel bad, like he's got so much willpower. I mean, and all Muslim people who do it, they do. I mean, it's just a lot of willpower, and, I think it teaches him a lot of discipline and things like that. I mean, he's the most disciplined person that I know, and, they really don't want this attention though, they want
I know.
They want it to, be for a reward for later for them, that they're, they're doing it. They're not, mad that they're doing it. They're happy. It's, to get them the rewards and things like that. So, I mean, it's a good, nice, happy, holy time. But, yeah, as I said, our guest did fall through, but we do have a bean post. So,
the bean post, yes.
Yeah, bean post.
Bean post.
So her name is Rebecca Mills, and she is from, sorry, I got to pull it up on my Facebook Messenger. She's from Swansea, Wales in the UK, and she had her transplant.
International.
Yeah, she had her transplant at the University of Wales, Cardiff, and it has gone well. The transplant is amazing, she says. These are her words. I instantly felt better in myself. It's a very long process, but stick it out. It's like one big roller coaster ride. Lots of ups and downs, but worth the final result. And then she says her final note is to just stay positive. What will be, and you're in the best hands. So good luck with everything, Rebecca, and keep us posted.
Congratulations, Rebecca.
Your bean.
We're sending positive vibes.
Yeah, she was very sweet. She was very
Best
nice.
of luck.
So yeah, good luck on that.
And I think today we're going to talk a little bit about food. Samantha wanted to do kind of a food episode, and I guess we're just going to... So I did actually go to culinary school, which I feel kind of weird saying because I don't work in the industry now.
Oh yeah, but that's totally normal.
But I learned some things, and so like you and I sometimes have conversations about like how to do things differently, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to talk about some of those things. And you said maybe do a recipe, but like...
Oh, you don't have to do
No.
that.
I kind of think I'm going to do like talk about... I make this pot roast that I think I've kind of perfected. And I was looking for like renal diet. Oh my gosh, that is so difficult to like search. There was one website that said no fruits and vegetables, no grains, no meat, no dairy.
Yeah, that's the potassium.
And I'm like, but what are you going to eat? I was like, okay, so cardboard it is. I mean, I don't know. Like what, I mean, really.
And then think
no
about...
No fruits and vegetables is what it said.
Yeah, and there's a shift though because people are trying to do plant-based, and especially there are doctors that I read about, you know, mainly on Facebook, that people say, oh, my doctor wants me to go vegan, or my doctor wants me to do plant-based. And then people are like, oh, what about the potassium? But I saw a doctor actually on a podcast, the rapping doctor. Not
the rapping
not
doctor?
the YouTube video that you just saw.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Is it the same doctor?
No, it's a lady.
Oh, okay.
The
lady doctor comes back again.
Yeah, female doctor. So she said that she'd rather battle the potassium than battle diabetes. And so there you go. She's like, I've never cured anyone's diabetes I've cured people's diabetes with plant-based, but I've never cured their diabetes with meat, you know, so it's
right.
Like, she'd rather, there's potassium binders, if you will, because I don't know if that's the correct term, but, you know, stuff like how I take the phosphorus binders. Now, phosphorus is in all the junk food and all the additives and all those things, so, like, I get what she's saying about, you know, she'd rather, and she also did say she doesn't like substitutions, like, she doesn't like, anything trying to be something else, like the fake, you know.
Yeah, it's never good.
Well, I mean,
some of the garden burgers, I guess, are okay, but they're still processed.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. See, I look at the sodium content in that stuff because I do.
Right, and that's what I was going to talk about. Is one of the first things you learn about in culinary school is how to control
salt.
It's not so much to lower sodium per se, but to know when to season, and you can have so much more control. Because if you even add, like, let's say salted butter to something, there's salt in there that you have to account for when you're seasoning. So it's better to have things like unsalted butter. And
yeah, I still get that because of you.
when I do, so like say you have a seasoning packet you like, just look on the back. The first thing in it is going to be salt. So if you look past the salt, then you'll get to the actual spices and herbs you want to need in it, you know, or want to need, that you need to have in like a mixture.
Right.
So if there's a fajita seasoning that you like, if you look at the back, just, you probably have that stuff in your cabinet. Like
exactly.
Cumin, garlic salt, not salt, no, that's what I was going to say.
Garlic powder.
Yes. If you have something that says blank salt, it has salt in it. So after I started going to culinary school, I went to my cupboard and threw away anything that had the word salt in it, because when you add it and then you add salt on top of it, you can't really anticipate how it's going to taste. And then everything ends up too salty.
Yeah.
So I would recommend definitely, like, I'm not a nutritionist by any means. I'm just saying what I did so that I could have more control over my flavors was to get rid of like seasoning salt, garlic salt, onion salt, and get onion powder.
Yeah, I do
garlic
that.
powder. And the only seasoning I invest in, or the powder I invest in, is ancho chili powder. I love ancho chili powder. Like, chili powder is a big thing. I tend to like more probably like Mexican flavors.
Yeah, but you like mild.
Yes,
you
but
don't like the spice.
Ancho chili powder has a lot of flavor, and you can definitely add like the chili flakes to stuff to make it hot, or any type of hot sauce. But ancho chili powder is kind of, it has a lot of flavor, and if you add a lot, it will get kind of spicy, but it turns everything a nice color, and it's just, it's really cool to work with. Like, everything I use it on everything. It's my fragrance. It is my Frank's
I put
hot
that shit
sauce.
on everything.
I put it on everything. I really, really do too.
I like when food has color, though. That always makes me feel a bit healthier, too.
Right.
And that same doctor who was talking about plant-based, she was talking about just grow your basil and your cilantro and those things.
So, funny thing is when I tried to, so cilantro and parsley, you can grow them like during short terms, but you can't really bring them back. You have to replant them every year because the roots for them, something about North Carolina soil, because it's pretty much clay. I mean, I'm sure in certain, different parts of the world you can grow anything, but in North Carolina, you get so far down, you get clay. It's kind of hard to keep things that need to have deep roots and water and things like that.
Yeah.
So the parsley and the cilantro is kind of difficult, but you can have like a plant bed where you have them and you just have them because they sell them everywhere. Like you always see them everywhere. Every store you go into is the herbs, the potted herbs. You can grow them for like just a season. Yeah. And then, or, cut them all down and then just start another plant. But Lowe's has a thing, because when I buy herbs, it's like you could buy a huge thing of herbs that you're never going to use. And there's ways to store them and preserve them. But I usually will just go, and Lowe's has this thing where you could cut like many herbs and put them in a plastic bag for 99 cents. And that's what I do because or other than that, I use dried herbs. It's just remember, if you're going to use dry herbs, they're much more potent than
especially
fresh herbs.
rosemary.
So you want to use like way less.
Yeah, rosemary is pretty potent. But people don't realize that soy sauce has a ton of sodium. Even the low sodium one has a ton of sodium. Right. And I love soy sauce. Like my fried rice that I make, I mean, it's... Well, I don't really eat it. I make it for Slim. If you just have to kind of keep tasting as you're making. Yeah. And then you'll end up using less because that's kind of the point. Like, so I wanted to talk about this pot roast, even though we were talking about plant. We're talking about plant-based, but I think this is a recipe that's pretty okay for most people. Now, I tend to do low carb and keto type stuff myself, although this isn't perfectly keto. Does pot roast have a lot of iron? I don't know. I mean,
well,
red
it's
meat
beef.
Usually does.
Yeah. I did a beef roast, so
it's got iron. Yeah.
Beef chuck roast, because I know like you'll call me and you'll be like, I need iron. Yeah,
and I'll eat like a steak, which is very rare. I don't eat it rare, but it's very rare for me to eat a steak.
Well, how do you like your temperature then?
More medium well.
It depends on the steak though, doesn't it? Or you always like it gray in the middle? I'm not a big on seeing a lot of pink. Gross. But gross. See, I'm not in it for the taste of meat. So well, that's because it doesn't taste like anything when you cook it. Well, because I don't think I would like that, because I would feel like, anyways, I don't want to get into that. Okay. Let's talk about your pot roast. Okay, let's talk about it. Because a lot of people do really like pot roast. Right, and I think I've kind of I made this pot roast the other day, and I've been making it probably about once a week. And it's just the beef chuck roast, probably about 2 to 3 pounds. I don't know. They usually just come in kind of the same package, and I don't even look at the poundage. Yeah. But I invested in, because I'm not a crock pot person. Everything I put into the crock pot tastes dry and gross. Huh. And I think it's because you can't control the temperature. Like you have high and low, and that's it. Yeah. So what I did is I spent $60 on a Lodge cast iron Dutch oven, and I use it for everything, because you can put it on the stovetop, because I don't like to do dishes, so you can use it to put it on the stovetop to sear the meat, which is what I do. Get it really nice and hot. Use a oil with a high smoke point, not butter. Which would be? So I use, because it doesn't have any carbs, is coconut oil. Oh yeah. And it comes solid, so when you put it in the pan, once it starts melting, you kind of know about where your temperature is. But if you're not sure, you just kind of put your hand kind of close to it. And once you're feeling like a lot of heat, now don't stick your hand on it.
Once your hand is burnt and melting.
Yeah, once your hand is burning and melting, then you're going to sear meat, right? Like, so you're going to do a good job. Yeah. Yeah. So really, all I put on pretty much everything I sear is just salt and pepper, and I use kosher salt. And so I look.
Salt Bay, that's you.
Yeah. Well, I don't do it from like this, but that would be cool. No, so I went on DaVita's website, and they actually had, because I was wondering, I was like, remember Chris was afraid about iodized salt and getting gout? Yes. So I looked on DaVita's website, and they said that sea salt and kosher salt generally have more flavor and are larger, so people tend to use less of it.
I use sea salt.
So kosher salt is what restaurants use, which I'm sure you know, but and a pepper grinder, like no pre-cracked pepper. Like, if you go into someone's house that cooks or has cooked, they're going to have, if they don't, then, but they should have kosher salt and a pepper grinder. Like those are just, that goes on everything. So I put that on the meat, and then the hot pan's ready. The Dutch oven is ready. It's on the stove. It's hot. I'm going to put the oil in, the coconut oil, and then I kind of drop the meat in and walk away for like a minute.
I'm good at the walking away part.
But don't walk away too long. So you're going to do that, and then you flip it, right? And then you do that to the other side, and then you take it out of the Dutch oven.
Okay.
And put it on a plate. And
for it to cool?
No. Because magic happened at the bottom of that pan.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember what it's called? I think I've told you before. It's a French word.
Once you say, I'll know, but I'm just...
It's called fond.
Oh, I was thinking like drippings.
It's basically like those little brown bits after you sear meat.
Yeah.
No, that's flavor. What are you doing? No, absolutely. Don't get that look off your face.
Well, I don't cook meat like that.
Okay.
Much, so.
Well, I'm telling you how to make a good pot roast.
I need a TikTok video for this. You're going to do a TikTok video?
We can make... Hey, you guys let us know. If you want me to do this on TikTok, I will do it on TikTok.
I think you should.
Okay. So you've got now empty Dutch oven
meat bits.
with the fond from the searing of the meat, right?
Yes.
And it depends on if you like onions to have texture. I prefer them like almost melted.
Oh, I like a crunchy.
Well, they're not going to be crunchy, but they're almost melted into the...
Are they caramelized?
Well, they just at the end product, you're not gonna get individual onions. It'll be more like kind of
flavoring,
just kind of like a flavor. So what I do is, this is the time when you add the onions to the fond, get it add a little more salt and pepper. So every step you're adding just a little bit of salt and pepper, just a little bit of salt and pepper, and so you do that, and then you deglaze with red wine.
Oh, cool!
And you can get wine at Aldi for $2.99.
Yeah,
which
I
is
love Aldi wine.
Dirt cheap. And yeah, because I only use it for cooking. So I pay $6 and get a bottle of red and a bottle of white, and boom, done.
See, I'm that, what's that quote that says, I love to cook with red wine. Sometimes I even put it in the food.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, but you like wine.
I love wine.
Yeah.
I love red wine.
So deglaze with red wine. When you add the red wine, that's the process of deglazing it.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
The onions are in there, the red wine's in there, and then you kind of stir with a wooden spoon. Now, you don't want to use metal utensils on a Dutch oven, because then it'll kind of,
Okay.
So I use a nice wooden spoon and make sure you get all those bits, and it kind of creates like this little sauce thing going on. And then what I do is I put the meat back in, and then I use a whole carton of stock.
Oh, wow.
Beef stock.
Yeah.
Now, why
do you do low
beef
sodium,
stock?
or do you do...
Well, so, okay, the thing about stock and broth is a finished product. So, like, broth is already going to have salt in it, whereas stock has, it shouldn't have any sodium in it. Okay. It might have a little, don't quote me on that, but it's unseasoned. Like, if you taste it, it's like, bleh.
Okay, so it's not like a lot of
I wonder how that sounded. Because trust me, it tastes like the worst stuff ever. So then you add the whole carton of stock, right? That's what I do. Now, you can make your own stock, but my stove has been pushed to the limit, and I have like one working burner. Aww. So I'm not doing that, because I'll just get the carton of stock and just add it. So add it, put the meat in, put it in the oven, 300 degrees, and generally I will cook it 3 to 4 hours. But when you want to add the other vegetables that you want to actually eat with the roast,
right,
you want to put those in like an hour before you eat. So like if you're going to cook it for 3 hours, then I'll take it out, add carrots and celery. So that's the mirepoix. So you have onions, carrots, and celery.
Do you do potatoes with yours?
You can, but I don't, because I do more keto. But if you were going to add potatoes, you would add them with the celery.
Would they be soft enough?
Yeah, I think if you cook them, well, now, okay. So I like to do the little baby potatoes if I'm going to do them. If you're not going to do baby potatoes, just make sure you cut them evenly. I feel like I'm kind of lazy, because I'm just like, the baby potatoes are great. Just throw them in there and they get awesome. And they taste really good. Yeah. But you can, if you have like Idaho potatoes, you just make sure you cut them kind of evenly so they cook evenly. Yeah. But then you put everything in there, and then if you're using like dried herbs, then I put it in at that time too. And I add a little bit more salt and pepper. Excuse me. I add a little more salt and pepper. Every time you add something, a little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of salt and pepper. So let it finish cooking that hour, right? So it's been 4 hours. Take it out of the oven. And then I take the meat out, and then I take the vegetables out, and then what's left, put on the stove.
Okay.
And you're going to turn on the heat, get it to a boil, and let it simmer. And it's going to actually reduce because of the collagen in the stock.
Oh.
So that is creating kind of like the sauce you're going to put on top.
Fancy.
Yeah, so you just, basically by boiling it, you're like taking out the water, and it makes it a little thicker. Now, you could add thickening agencies.
Agents.
You could add thickening agents to help with it. But if you just let it reduce, I prefer it to be more like brothy.
I would too, I think.
So, but I knew I got it. I knew I hit it on the head this last time, because when I took the ladle, and you end up with, it gets crazy. You start out with a whole carton of stock, and you end up with like maybe a soup bowl's worth once you get it kind of reduced, and once it goes into the vegetables and everything. So then you, I knew I had it perfect. I had the ladle. I was making Sean his plate. I had it all pretty. And then I just knew the color was so right on it. I was like, I have nailed this. I have nailed it. And I sent him some to work, and it was in a ramekin. And I said, did you, because he was like, oh my God, this is so good. This is so amazing. And I was like, well, did you share it? Because sometimes I'm like, let your little work buddies taste it or something.
Yeah, he shares.
He said no. He said it was like savory candy. And I said, well, how did you know my old stage name? That is
so funny.
But it did turn out really good. So that's kind of just a little recipe, but it's because I'm not a baker. I don't like to measure things. Right. So and you will, once you have the reduction.
Okay.
The sauce you're going to put on top, give it a taste. Everything, taste. So give it a taste, and it probably will need a little salt. And then just add it at that time. You don't want to add salt before you reduce something, because then the water comes out and then it gets really salty.
Okay.
So you always want to finish at the end, but season in stages.
Yeah. Usually,
does that make sense?
Usually you do finish at the end.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Oh my goodness.
Okay. So
Samantha.
Oh, I wasn't even being like that. I just meant like you finish and. I have questions though.
Okay.
So thickening agent. Do you mean like flour?
Yeah. So you can make a roux, which is butter and flour, and then you would add the stock to the roux, or the roux to the stock. You can do it either way. But if you do equal parts, butter and flour and whisk it, you get a roux, and then. Based on how long you cook it, it will get darker and start smelling a little nutty. And then, for beef stock, you might want a darker roux.
Okay.
But
so then,
I just keep thinking of RuPaul. I've been watching.
Yeah, because you were watching it.
Too much drag show.
So, which was interesting watching it at your house. I've never really watched it. But if you did make it thicker, then it would give it more of a stew, right?
Yeah, but you don't have a ton of liquid to work with. So if you wanted a stew, you would have to add even 2 cartons if you wanted to go that route. I prefer just to have everything separate, and then it just kind of goes on like a sauce.
Right, that makes sense.
But if you prefer stew, I would add more stock at the beginning. Or
See, this is all good information for me, because it's hard for me to cook for Slim, because he loves traditional West African food, and I've made a couple dishes a few times, which you could probably cover one of those. That would be good to make.
The peanut butter stew,
kidney friendly, the domada. But he likes everything to have a sauce, and so it's really hard for me to just make our traditional American stuff, where we just had the chicken or meat.
Does he feel like it's incomplete?
Vegetables and the potatoes. Yeah, I remember one time a long time ago, I gave him a plate, and he was like, why do you put everything separate? Because he likes to have a rice or whatever it is, if it's a pasta or a couscous or whatever, and then a sauce on top of it.
Right.
And so it's hard for me to think of things that are saucy, except for spaghetti and
saucy.
Stuff like that. Yeah, I'm pretty saucy. That was my stage name. But,
that was your stage.
But I also wanted to ask you about, because I remember when I had my kidney transplant, and this was also a big thing for everybody for a while, and I remember talking about it with you, but I'm not sure what your opinion was about wooden spoons, and you actually had bought me some wooden spoons a couple of years ago, or wooden utensils. Because of the porousness in them and the germs and all that, those I was told not to use that sort of stuff after my transplant.
So you can use silicone. Those can go in the dishwasher usually, and there's mostly just silicone, or silicone wrapped in metal, or metal wrapped in silicone.
Okay, I got
So
you.
like it will have the structure, but it doesn't scratch your pans, because once you scratch the pans, like especially if you have nonstick pans, you're just, which we all have Teflon in our blood system, and I just have to get over it. But it just makes me cringe when I see it. Like I literally, cast iron, you can't do it in cast iron. I wouldn't do it in an enamel or basically. There's specialized nonstick pans out there that you can use metal utensils in, but they're expensive.
Okay, yeah.
And there is stainless steel you can use, obviously metal utensils, but in general, like most of the stuff you have at home, you probably shouldn't be using metal utensils because it's just scraping up the nonstick coating, and then which is like, I get it, it's already in our bloodstream, but why make it even worse?
Right. You probably would just hate to see me cook anything because I don't.
It's crazy. We're sisters, but we really like whenever we get together, the food's already cooked or whatever.
That's true.
So like we don't usually see each other cook.
Yeah, you would hate me in the kitchen and I would be in your way.
I've seen some of your pans and it is a little cringe. I'm sorry, I love you, but your pans are so cringe.
I don't care. I've gotten rid of a lot of those, but it's hard for me with like a wok. My wok always gets those little rust spots on it, and I don't know. I think I've asked you about it, and you try to do the like season it and all that crap. But is there a wooden spoon brand or wooden utensil brand that you like, or a type or?
So I don't.
Okay.
But I do have a wooden spoon, but it's hand wash only. I got it at Aldi. Okay. I don't think there's like, and I could be wrong because I'm not the know-all of everything, but I'm saying like for me, I like to use the wooden spoon over the spatula to like mix the onions and the wine together, because I feel like the spatula doesn't scrape as well the bottom of the Dutch oven, but I use the spatula for like literally everything else. Like that little, I think the Pampered Chef one that's like kind of like that, you know?
I know what you're
like it's like it's a little scoop, but it's like a spatula, so you can get all the stuff out of the pan. I like that, to be able to get all of the stuff out of the pan.
Aldi has to sponsor this episode.
No, I love Aldi. I do.
Me too.
I love Aldi. I really, really do.
All right, so if you
I did want to talk about why wine.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I was thinking, like, so when you have something that has a lot of fat in it, you need something to cut it, like a citrus or a wine. And the reason we use like wine instead of vinegar is because, like, I was thinking, like, you can use vinegar, and I do when I make barbecue. Well, we call it barbecue in North Carolina, but it's pulled pork, and so that's so fatty that you can use that kind of vinegar to cut through that fat. But in a lot of things, there's not as much fat, so you don't like I feel like vinegar is like a slap in the face, like.
Yes, we'll talk about how the alcohol burns off, though, because a lot of dialysis patients are like, "Oh no, not
Oh
wine."
yeah, no. So when you use alcohol to cook with, as long as you cook with it, it will burn off. Yeah. So the wine though is like a massage, like someone touching your cheek gingerly, as opposed to like smacking.
A love tap.
It's a love tap. It's a love tap as opposed to whatever Will Smith did to Chris.
We had to fit that in there.
Chris Rock. I have to say, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had the best response. Did you read it? It's long, but I promise it's so worth reading, because I feel like he hit the nail on the head with his, he has a comment about it, and I encourage you to look it up and read it. It's really
I just realized
well said.
his name, his Muslim name, is the same as the greeting for Ramadan, Kareem.
Oh, you just realized that?
I just realized that. I just put that together when you said that, yeah. But I do, I'm glad you didn't do a pork recipe in the month of Ramadan.
No, I know you're not a big pork fan, and
Muslim people don't eat pork is why I said that. But I'm not a big meat fan.
No, I know.
To begin with, but most people that I talk to on dialysis are.
Right.
And we do need iron a lot of the time.
Right. That's why I kind of went with like red meat, because I know red meat is great for iron. And I looked up the vegetables on what was it, kidney.org. Yeah. So it was either kidney.org or the DaVita website, like the specific vegetables that I use to make sure, like, they're pretty decent.
If they're doing potatoes, I know someone, not someone, but a lot of people on Facebook will talk about leaching their potatoes to get the potassium out. So they
do what?
Leaching, soaking.
Oh, I did not know that was a thing.
To soak them to remove potassium. I think they soak them for like an hour or more.
So let me ask you this. So what kind of starches then are good for dialysis patients typically? Like, what would you have?
I don't have a problem with potassium.
Okay.
So I usually will eat a potato if I want, a baked potato. I don't eat potatoes every day, but I do like potatoes. So I don't do any of that, and I haven't really, as far as starches.
Because I saw like it said to avoid grains, which I thought was kind of
Yeah, I know they say like pastas are fine. So
right. So it's like if you eat bread, white bread.
I guess so. And
Yeah.
but the thing I'm seeing everybody doing is keto, like you were saying, is a low carb. So I think they're
I think for
just
me
doing
though,
more meat. I think a lot
for
of
me,
people
I feel
are.
like I need to preface this by saying I do keto. I've tried different things, and my body responds best to this. Like I've actually, all my heartburn's gone. I used to have to take,
wow.
I used to have to take prescriptions, like strong prescriptions, and so my heartburn's gone. But I do the intermittent fasting, and then the other thing is I have polycystic ovary syndrome, so I probably do have an insulin resistance. There's a lot of debate about it, but I feel like for me, what feels best for me and what my body seems to respond the best to is kind of staying like lower carb. Plus now with Emma, my stepdaughter has type 1, and so I cook like a lot of low carb stuff so that she can have ice cream with dessert and still stay in that range that they want her to stay in, so she's not having to take a whole lot more insulin.
Right.
So like I'll cook, like say I cook this doesn't have a ton of carbs in it. Well, we would calculate the carbs because she does have to give herself a shot, but then she can have a scoop of ice cream and still stay. They want her to ideally stay between like 45 carbs and 60 carbs, which of course, she can technically eat anything she wants. She just has to measure the insulin to match what carbs she's ingested. So she can eat anything she wants. It's just that they said, like, in general, you want to kind of stay between there in your meals.
Yeah.
And then like her snacks are, she likes pork rinds, which she says I'm kind of tired of pork rinds because she has to stay under 15 carbs in her snacks. Otherwise she'll have to give herself a shot. And then you get into insulin snacking if it's insulin stacking if it's too close to like a regular meal.
Oh, yeah.
So like if she comes home from school and she's hungry, we have to think, okay, well, what time are we going to have dinner? Because we know you're going to need to take insulin at dinner. If we're not going to have dinner until later, it has to be like 3 hours apart. So you can't give yourself a shot and then an hour later give yourself another shot.
Right.
So if it's like 3:30 and we're not going to eat until like 7:30, then she could have like a substantial snack, but then she has to give herself a shot, which half the time she's like, no, she don't want to do that. So she'll go for stuff that like are under 15 carbs, because if she stays under 15 carbs, she doesn't have to give herself a shot. And I know there's probably a lot of people that can identify, because I know kidney disease and diabetes kind of go together.
Diabetes and hypertension are the two leading causes of kidney disease, and so you have a lot of people who are diabetic on dialysis. Right,
and that makes sense. So but I did find there is a, and it's on the DaVita website, there is a book called Cooking for David, a culinary dialysis cookbook, and her name's Sarah Coleman. She's a renal dietitian. And I was like, that should be interesting because, that's going to probably, I want to check it out. But I just found it yesterday, so I didn't have a chance to like order it or anything, but that's interesting. And then I wanted to talk about my favorite book from culinary school is not any of the actual textbooks. It's the cheapest book I had to buy. It's like $20. It's right here. It's called The Flavor Bible.
Oh, I think I remember seeing that.
So this thing, I give it to people for gifts.
That's
like
cool.
I give this away. Like, well, not this copy. This is mine. But I give it away to people. And basically what it is say like, this is like, if you're feeling creative, it's great because like, say you're like, okay, well, what do I have in the refrigerator? What goes with what? Well, say you're like, oh, I have Gouda cheese. And then it's in alphabetical order. So you flip to cheese, Gouda. Oh, this is what goes with it. It just is a list.
Cool.
So it's like apples go with it, apricots, cherries. So it kind of, and then you can cross-reference. We'll say, oh, I want to have mushrooms with it. Then you can go look at mushrooms and kind of build like a dish that way. But this is amazing. This is like my favorite thing. This is what I use most when I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Cool.
But it's about flavor profiles, like what goes, and it has like a lot of famous chefs in it that have like their special flavor affinities and
is
things
Alton
like that.
Brown in there your favorite?
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about Alton Brown. So I have the best sister ever. And how do I forget to talk about Alton Brown? I almost like if I would have had a boy, he would have been Alton.
Oh,
but it was gonna be Danny Alton, but we would have called him Alton because our dad's name is Danny.
Yeah, and I was gonna tell you that, or I was gonna say when you were talking about I learned some stuff at culinary school. I feel like you knew a lot of stuff already. You still learned
No.
afterwards.
That's inaccurate.
But you have the passion for it, and that's what I don't have, is the passion for cooking.
But I feel like it's, you know,
I don't have that.
Like you can learn basic things. Like if you learn techniques, then the other stuff will come. So like what's more important is to learn techniques. And what I love about, wait, let's back up. I have the best sister ever. She bought me and my boyfriend tickets to go see Alton Brown.
And people are like, what would you go see a chef do? Like, I was like,
Deepak.
Yeah.
Well, I can't tell you. It's a secret. Like he said, we're allowed to take pictures for Act 1, but we were not allowed to take pictures for Act 2.
Oh, because
he was still on tour.
Okay.
And so like, but I saw some people, I was like, I know you heard him say that he did not want pictures on Facebook.
So that's why I didn't get
second
much
act.
feedback besides we had a blast.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was so fun.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
no, it's worth it. And eventually I'll be able to talk about it. But
It's the science of food is what he's into.
well,
and
yeah,
what
but
you're
he's
into.
so funny anyway. Like, remember when we went to his book signing?
Yeah.
And he was
cool.
he was hilarious. He's a funny guy, but anything he does, he's always like talking about the science behind it. And he has like, and this is going to sound cheesy, but it's not puppets and like, I'm a visual learner and he's a very like visual instructor and he has like props and stuff that help you kind of understand why things work the way they work. And once you understand why they work the way they work, it's easier than to kind of make decisions like, oh, well, this is going to do this because of this. So then, you know, it's not just like learning a technique and then not knowing why it works that way. Like just having to know step 1, 2, and 3. I don't really work that way. I prefer to know, do I really need to do this? Yeah, I really need to do this because I need to do that. Like, I know I'm literally saying nothing right now, but there is a reason. There's a rhyme and a reason. But yes, Alton Brown, I had him sign that book. And here's the problem. There were so many people there at that book signing that we actually had time between him talking and doing the book signing to go get dinner and come back. And when we came back, I had some wine, and I finally got up there, and he stood the entire time and signed everybody's book. But I remember when I got up there, I was like, if I have a boy, and this was before I even had Anya or was even thinking about having Anya, I was like, if I have a boy, I'm going to name him after you. Because that was really like, I was going to legitimately do that. He was going to be Danny Alton.
Yeah, Alton's a good name.
Yeah, and then we were going to call him Alton. Well, and I do have to preface that our dad's name is Danny Allen. Danny Allen. If he watches this, he's going to be like, oh gosh. He can hear his aunts.
Well, he loves to say, tell people, you know, and it's true. It's not Daniel. His birth certificate says Danny.
It says
because
Danny Allen.
Grandpa was Constantine, not Constantine.
And then went to Dan.
He changed his name to Dan to fit in and be more American, which, you know, we look back now and we realize like that sucks.
I so want to know what the rest of our last name is because you know it was shortened.
Yeah, it was definitely.
So our last name is Arsu, A-R-S-U.
Yeah. Arsuzinski.
But if you try to, the thing is like I've had someone, well, this was years ago, maybe I should try again, but I've had someone try to do genealogy from our last name, but they didn't get very far because it's not the actual last name.
And there's just not much, I guess. I mean, it's Romanian, but like, I don't
there's not a lot of information out there, which so I was like, because I was going to pay him too, but this was like a long time before it was a big, huge, before everybody was spitting in cups and getting all their DNA information.
We were just talking about mine earlier. I'm supposedly Danish. But whatever. Anyway.
She doesn't believe it.
Well, I mean, it was not what I thought. So I guess we can just kind of talk about what we are going to do in the future since we didn't have our guest and, you know, that was a specific topic, but we didn't let it stop us though. And
I hope this was at least
shifted gears.
I mean, I feel like when you talk about food, it's never boring to me.
No, it's not boring.
It's
not boring. I mean, if people want to skip ahead, then they can skip ahead if they don't want to hear a recipe.
They're
or
like,
whatever. But I mean,
gross.
I think it's very informative and it, you know, gives people a little bit of the science behind it. So.
I even like so basic though, you know. But I feel like
was a lot for me to like. I don't know that stuff at all.
Did you not?
I don't know any.
Well, that's why I didn't talk to you before because I was like, I'm going to get her to reduce her sodium because I've told you before. Stop with the canned soups.
Oh, I only did that for like a little while. I was just like hooked on being lazy. No, I don't do that anymore. I mean, I do like, you know, if I'm sick or something, but. Yeah, it was hard for me to get flavor into a homemade soup.
Right.
That was a big thing.
But you can do it.
But I'm good at making the soup because I'm good at taking, which Dad taught me, from a young age, taking what you have and, basically the whole kitchen
That's what
sink or
restaurants
whatever.
do.
Just utilize what you have already. And I always have stuff in there to make something.
Your food actually tastes really good, so.
Yeah,
I know
when you just don't want to see how I get there.
No, but
with my pots and pans.
Yeah, when you bring me that fried rice,
Yeah,
that I'm not supposed to have, but eat it anyway when you bring it.
Oh
in,
yeah,
it's
because it's on
delicious.
keto.
It's delicious.
But you said earlier how you're not a nutritionist.
No, I'm not.
So
I'm just
I
saying.
wanted to say we're not nurses and doctors. This is not a medical advice podcast. Don't come here if you're looking for.
This is me telling you what to do.
Yeah, don't come here if you're looking, for medical advice. But these are our opinions, our experiences. Mainly my experience with dialysis and kidney transplant and that whole journey. And, there's obviously going to be other topics that just come up naturally and organically. Venting, silver linings, because there are a bunch of silver linings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm like meeting all kinds of people through Next Stage and through social media, through networking. And, I just feel like I have all these friends who understand me. I still, have my old friends and I love them. They're amazing. I have a great group of friends that I've had. I wouldn't even say group because we're all kind of weirdly separate. Like I hang out with one and hang out the other. I mean, they can all be together if it happens. But since high school, I have a good handful of good girlfriends who've just been there.
Yeah, I mean, and what's crazy is I know a lot of your high school friends because I didn't really have any of my own.
Well, I mean, kids suck. So I mean, I'm lucky.
No, I mean, I don't feel bad.
People.
I just was very introverted. Like I just liked hanging out with myself because we had such a big household. That like anytime I got to be by myself, I was like, yes.
Yeah, Anya's the same way. I see her exactly the same way in her room. Yeah.
She likes to be by herself. She likes to hang out with her aunts outside. Like not her aunts, her aunts.
Yeah,
she's
actual
obsessed with
insects.
ants.
I was looking at the chalk drawings of all of them today, and
do you know
sidewalk.
what she told me? She gets in the car. I pick her up from school. She finds the ant nest, so she follows the ants back to wherever they're going.
It's called a nest. It's called a nest.
Yeah, I believe so. Okay. I have to ask Anya.
Anthill.
So she's 9 years old. So she said she was watching these. She just watches them, and she knows all about like the different ants and everything. So she said that she killed a beetle to feed it to the ants because ants do need two types of resources. They need sugar and they need protein from insects. Mm-hmm. And she said she saw this worker ant trying to pull because she led it over there. She killed the beetle, put it over by the ants, and she saw a worker ant trying to haul it. And she said to me, but he laid down I'm sorry, I said he, and then she corrected me. It's she. All the workers are she's.
Okay.
So she laid down some pheromones for a super major to come and help. And the super major, she saw the super major come and grab the beetle that she killed and take it back to the nest. I was like, you actually saw that happen? Like you saw the super major come?
Right.
And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like,
that's crazy.
And that's all that's, so she loves to draw with chalk. It's all that's out in front of our house. It's just
but it's very
little
colorful
ant drawings. People love them. Like they walk by, it's like comic book. Like each square is a different comic book.
I was trying to follow it. It had the
it's a story. She makes stories.
It had percentages, and I asked you about that, and you said that it was like charging, battery charging. Because I was like, what is 48%?
It's always ants though. Her room is full of drawings that she did of ants. Yeah. It's just. Anyway,
she has a passion.
No one cares. No, I'm just joking.
Well, I mean, I care. She has a passion for it.
She does have a passion for it.
But some of the topics that we will start out talking about before we go on our tangents, which I do all the time, it's just going to happen, will be like balancing life on dialysis, nutrition on dialysis, which is definitely your segment.
Well, I mean, I'm not a nutritionist. I can just tell you how to.
You're into the cooking of the food, and you're more interested in this like renal diet stuff than I am. Like, I'm terrible about following it.
Well, it's just I'm trying to think of like ways that, like if I can help you figure out something that's good, then that's good. Like I think what might be interesting is to take the specifics of the renal diet, like what you're allowed to have, and take it maybe to some people that work in the culinary business around here,
right? And
see if they can come up with a recipe or what they might want to make with it.
Yeah, I saw someone post something that made so much sense. I was like, you're right. That said, can we get rid of everybody being obsessed with all these other, gearing a menu or a store or a section of a store toward Atkins and keto and no sugar or whatever, what have you, or even the diabetes, which would be those things. And can we also, or not get rid of it, but also add to it like renal friendly stuff? Like, why aren't things ever geared to that?
Right.
Because it's such a problem that people are, when you're having kidney problems and you don't know it, if you change your diet,
you're on your own to figure it out.
Right. If you changed your diet, it would help a whole lot. And we don't know that, and then we don't have these things all in our face like other diets do. And
now, I'm sure that the doctors go over like what you should be eating.
They do, and you have all kinds of little printouts that they give you, and places
Sounds
you can
fun.
go online and all this stuff. And I'm very when I let myself get so hungry that I just eat whatever.
Yeah,
And
I think that's the key though. Like the key is
terrible.
to not let that, or
planning would be the key, and meal prep. And
and then also like there's certain foods that I know I can't have in the house because they're weak spots for me. So I just don't have them in the house.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess I kind of feel bad, but at the same time, they're not really good foods, so who cares?
Right. Like, I don't ever buy soda, I mean.
That is my kind of one weakness is I do like, now it's diet soda, but.
Right.
But I do kind of like soda sometimes, so.
But I mean.
That's my weakness. But I don't have to watch phosphorus. Like.
Right.
So, I mean, so let me ask you this. What do you drink? Like, if it's not water?
Well, I started kind of dabbling in those sparkling waters.
Oh,
like
I love those.
Drink.
I get those all the time.
My thing is like, okay, now I know the phosphorus is a big deal with Coke and things like that, but really in my mind, I'm thinking sugar. So it's kind of like, do you want sugar or do you want the chemicals? And it's like, you're kind of giving up one thing for the other. So for a while I was drinking a ton of orange juice, and it was mainly because when I had that surgery.
That's so funny because like when I was doing all this research, it said avoid orange juice.
Oh yeah.
And for some reason it said always avoid starfruit in like bold print. And what's so funny is, do you remember when I tried starfruit? I was working at Kroger and I tried a piece of it, and I ended up going to the hospital because I went into anaphylactic. Apparently I'm allergic to starfruit.
Oh wow.
But I think it's funny that it says always avoid starfruit. Like
I can't remember exactly.
That was from kidney.org.
Well, so
and nuts. It's said to avoid nuts. Do you avoid nuts?
I don't, but I also don't eat them all the time.
I'm trying so hard not to make a joke, right?
I don't eat them all the time. Anyways, so the orange juice thing, when I first had my parathyroidectomy, I was told to take my Tums calcium with orange juice. And then my nurse couldn't believe it. She was like, your potassium's going to shoot up. Don't do that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, well, I've been doing it for almost 2 weeks now. And I don't think it really did do anything because I was kind of it was like a shot of orange juice, but it was every 6 hours. So it was like I was drinking orange juice every day. And then I kind of almost became addicted to it. Do you ever get
oh my God, orange juice is delicious.
Yeah. So that's what happened. But normally I will just drink water, or, I try to have cranberry juice on hand for a while, but that's always a lot of sugar too, unless you get the one that's gross.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like to have the sparkling water with a lot of lime, and I'll just kind of flavor up my water pretty much. I'll either take plain water or sparkling.
When I was reading about this, it was saying that fruits and vegetables, I was like, okay, well, that's but that's
again the potassium, and I don't have
but is there any fruits that, I mean, I know you need to avoid bananas and
yeah, there's a whole list, and I just looked at it recently. There's a whole list that you can.
Yeah, but what so limes are okay as far as
I would think so.
But I feel like it's in everything, so you just have to I feel like you might just have to not have it all day, every day.
I think a lot of people do say moderation.
Yeah.
Moderation is key, and based on your labs. And also a lot of people, if they want to eat something, they'll eat it before dialysis so that it kind of gets cleaned off.
So you do your labs after you do dialysis?
Well, labs are once a month for pretty much everybody, but for me.
But you go in somewhere and they take them?
So I put my needles in, and then we have the vacuum tubes. So I draw my own labs, but I'm not actually.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm not actually putting. I'm not actually drawing blood from a vein.
Right.
Well, okay, I'm not doing it like how they do with the needle. I mean, it's still the same thing because I'm putting a needle in my fistula, and then I'm taking the Vacutane and the whatever you call that suction thing with the needle that you know how they take blood at the clinic or whatever. So you do a pre-set of tubes. It's a standard, your 3 or 4 tubes. and some of them have to be spun and some of them have to be refrigerated. Then you do a post tube, and the post tube is to get your, what me and Yvonne were talking about last time, KT over V, to see how well your blood is being cleaned. You take those tubes of blood, you keep them in the refrigerator, you take them to your clinic. They send them off to the lab to have them tested.
Right.
So that's once a month, yeah.
So I think we're wrapping up.
Yeah, that
went super quick.
That went fast.
But did you want to talk real quick? Because I see you have like 4 things and it will only take a second.
Well, I just had a really quick note about something funny that happened last night on Facebook. You saw the video of the girl, Nicole, who had done like an emotional video about her transplant, and it was, she had glasses and her bandana on, and she had a...
I haven't seen that one. I watched
No, you did see it because you liked it. She was talking about how her husband was her caretaker and she had a transplant for 3 years. Anyways, I ended up finding out she's a next stage advocate. So it's like this little small world, because I was like so excited. So I wanted to kind of give her a shout out. Oh, okay. But I was so excited that happened, because when I watched her video, it was so heartfelt, and so, I connected with it so much, because she was saying, this is the third anniversary of my transplant, and thank you so much to the family who had to make this tough decision. Yeah. It was a child, and they had to make that decision. And she said, this family is mourning, but I'm excited about this being my 3rd year, so this is kind of a bittersweet thing. And she's doing everything she can to give that child a second, like a second life. I mean, I know that sounds kind of morbid.
Definitely make sure you're an organ donor.
Right, and it was so touching. And then when I found out she is in my little community of, dialysis next stage advocates, I was just so overjoyed. That was one of the silver linings that I was saying. I'm meeting all these friends and everything. And also the random thought that I, wanted to talk about. Oh, so some of the other topics that we will talk about is kidney transplant, which comes up organically as well. Pregnancy on dialysis, that's one topic.
We really want to talk about that.
Yeah, because it's so interesting to me. And then dating on dialysis and those things.
And I would like to talk to like other people from other countries to see
that's
how
happening.
It is.
Yeah, we have a lot of UK people who connect through Facebook. So yeah, it's been happening. But also, my one last question, and this is like, answer us on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you can.
Yeah, because we are on all of those.
Yeah, I don't think you said Instagram earlier, but I'll have to.
Yeah, we're on Instagram, Twitter,
okay, I didn't know you said
Facebook, and then I mentioned the
Spotify,
Patreon,
YouTube,
and the Spotify and the YouTube. So we are like
we're
out there.
We out here. But so we actually, or I wanted to. I don't know if I even talked to you about this. I see this all the time, and my mom is a big plant lady, so like I talked to her about it, and she was like, that's interesting, but she didn't know. And it's like, you can't really find a lot of stuff. So the dialysate, that the actual liquid that ends up cleaning your blood, it like you put a sac in this is for home hemo. Is the dialysate itself good for plants? I think it is. Yes, I think the answer is yes. But what my question is, somebody had said that the waste is good for plants. That confused me. Oh. So get back to us and let us know if that is true. That's interesting. Is the actual waste, which is basically pee.
Because you would just throw that away.
Good for plants.
Like you just drain that out, right?
That drains out into the sink or wherever.
But what if it is some magic sauce for plants?
I don't know. I do the dialysate.
I need that because somehow I don't have a green thumb. Anyway, we need to wrap up. We heard the music. We heard it.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
Let's go ahead and close out again. Smack that subscribe button. Okay. That's what Uncle Roger says. Find him. He's awesome. Well, you probably know him.
He
anyway.
says, smack that subscribe button.
Yeah. I love him. And of course, our Patreon, and just interact with us.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And share your spare. You didn't say it with me.
No, I feel like you should just say it.
Yeah, share your spare. Share your damn spare. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.